Hello everyone, we have a book haul. It has been a long time since I actually went out and bought books, and so I have quite a few to show you. I actually went used book shopping and then did stop by Chapters Indigo to get a couple of new books. My sister and I, we've been saving up our money to go and do that, and so some of these books are ones she picked out and some of the ones I picked out, but they're all for our shelves. Hi Raven, do you want to be on the camera? Raven is so needy lately. He's just, he will not, he just will not sit anywhere except for beside me or on me lately. Do you want to be part of the video? Do you want to be part of the video? Okay, so I have it divided into 5 stacks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with in the order, kind of the order that I got them. I've got a stack that was books that I found when we did our own little book sale for the sanctuary, and it was a few books that I had found, mostly nonfiction, that I hadn't noticed when I had gone through to organize the books. And then I have a stack that is books that were either gifted to me or that sort of thing. And then I have the stack that I got at the used bookstore, Centennial Books in Regina. And it's one of my all-time favorite bookstores. It's the main used bookstore up there. And then I have a stack that I got at Value Village in the buy 4 get 1 free set up. And then I have a little stack of new books from Indigo. So, shall we get started, Raven? Shall we get started? Tell them all the books we bought. There's a couple about cats. You probably like those books, if you could read. Okay, well apparently I'm gonna have a little friend here while I do this. Okay, so the first stack is from the book sale that we did for the sanctuary, where we had a whole bunch of used books donated, and then we had unhauled a whole ton of our own books to go in to this sale, and we raised a bunch of money for the sanctuary, and it was really fun, and we ended up making a decent amount of money, and I ended up snagging a few extra books of my own. So first of all, I have this one here. This is Alexander Mackenzie from Canada by Land by Ainsley Manson. And this is a nonfiction biography of Alexander Mackenzie, who was the first European to cross North America by land. It was in 1793, and it says that the 1793 journey demanded courage and determination, and it never would have been achieved without the help of the First Nations. Mackenzie's successful crossing opened up a store of new opportunities for Europeans, but led to a dramatic and tragic invasion of the lives of the native people. This retelling of Mackenzie's life provides a fascinating glimpse into the early days of the fur trade in Canada, what it was like to spend each day in a canoe with hardy voyageurs, and the trials of long portages through the bush, the encounters with native tribes, some friendly, others fearful or hostile, and the constant power struggles between the different fur trading companies. So it looks like it could be interesting, and I love Canadian history, so that's why I snagged this one, and I'm curious to see. I hadn't read much about that fur trading era and everything until I read that one earlier this year. What the heck was that book called? Anyway, it was a book about the French fur trade, and that was the first time I'd read much about that period. So I'm kind of interested to check this out and see what I think of that. Then I picked up this one here. This is called The Lunatic Express, Discovering the World Via Its Most Dangerous Buses, Boats, Trains, and Planes by Carl Hoffman. And this book was published in, let's see, this one is from 2010, and it just looked like an interesting book. I like reading travel books. I'm not a big traveler myself because I can't really afford it, and I kind of have a lot of issues with anxiety, so I don't do a lot of traveling myself, but I love reading travel books and reading about other people's adventures. And this one just looked really interesting. The writer Carl Hoffman, it says, whenever he picked up a newspaper, he noticed news bulletins and was struck by how far removed the idea of tourism, travel for the pursuit of pleasure, is from the reality of most people's experiences. A curious and intrepid reporter, Hoffman spent 5 months circumnavigating the globe on its most perilous means of transportation: the statistically most dangerous airlines, the most crowded ferries, the slowest buses, and the deadliest trains. His goal was to understand what travel means to more than 99% of the world's population in the furthest reaches of the planet. So that sounds like something very interesting to read, and kind of a little different from a lot of the other travel books that I read. So I am looking forward to checking that one out. Then, speaking of travel books, I really enjoy Bill Bryson. I have read a few of his. One of them that I've read and enjoyed was a travel trip through Northern Europe. This one here is Notes from a Small Island, and this one is his traveling through Britain. And it's a 7-week roundabout by foot and British rail. So it is one of Bill Bryson's travel books, and I've always kind of enjoyed his writing style. It's quite entertaining, usually a fair bit of humor in it. This one was published in 1995. Apparently someone had children. But yeah, it does look quite interesting, so I'm looking forward to reading that one. Then I found this one. This is When the Going Gets Tough, Still More Adventures from a Country Vet by Dr. David Perrin. Now I've read most of the James Herriot veterinary books, and I really enjoyed those. He was an English veterinarian, and he wrote several books where he was traveling through the countryside. He was a country vet doing all of his veterinary work, and I found those ones really unique and just very heartwarming stories and interesting stories, and lots of strange things that he's seen. So this one is a Canadian veterinarian. It's his adventures as a veterinarian in the backwoods of southeastern British Columbia. This one is, I believe, the 4th or 5th one in his little series of books. He hires a recent graduate to assist with his practice and is moving to a new clinic. With his faithful dog Lug at his side, Dave deals with a multitude of eccentric clients and unpredictable patients. Petunia, the housebroken calf, Scroopchuck, the cat from hell, Snowball, the cockatoo with a taste for blood, Greta Maletta, the family pet who doesn't know she's a chicken, and Cooney, the wayward raccoon who lays claim to the family farm. So again, just a whole bunch of entertaining stories about life as a veterinarian in the backwoods areas, and I always find those books fun to read. Like I say, James Herriot was one of my favorite authors when I was younger, and I have quite a few of his books as well. So looking forward to checking that one out. And then I found this one here, which looks quite good. I had read that one about underwater archaeology recently, and this one here is something along those lines. This is called Treasure Hunter, Diving for Gold on North America's Death Coast. And this is by Robert McKinnon with Dallas Murphy. And this book, it follows a world-renowned diver and treasure hunter, Captain Robert McKinnon. And he is looking for sunken ships in the dangerous shallow waters along the Atlantic coast of Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia. Known as the Death Coast for its treacherous reefs and violent currents, the area's rocky bottom is layered with shipwrecks and untold riches. So I love books about oceans and sea and everything, which is funny because I'm in the landlocked province since it's in Canada, but entirely landlocked. But I've always loved books that take place on the sea. I love the Age of Sail and that sort of thing. And so I enjoy these types of books as well. So I am looking forward to checking that one out. And so that is the 5 books that I picked up at our little that I hadn't told you about yet, that I picked up at our little sale that we had for the sanctuary. So this next stack here is books that were either gifted to me, well, yeah, pretty much all that they were gifted to me by friends and family. So first one I have is Stonehenge by Bernard Cornwell. I read his first book in his Last Kingdom series, or the Uhtred of Bebbanburg saga, and I really, really loved his writing. So I decided I wanted to collect more of his books, and my friend happened to have 2 of them sitting around that used to belong to her grandmother, so she sent them to me. This one, Stonehenge, is a standalone. I don't know a lot about it other than that it obviously takes place around Stonehenge. And it just says on the back, discover a time of ritual and sacrifice, a land steeped in blood and glory, a family of brothers whose deadly rivalries and glorious ambitions will forever mark the world. So, I believe it has to do with like the Druids and all of that kind of stuff. So it takes place around the time when Stonehenge was active, sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to it because I know I love his writing. Then I have this one here that she also sent me. This is Harlequin by Bernard Cornwell. And Harlequin is actually the first book in his Grail Quest series. I know on on Fantastic Fiction it calls it The Archer's Tale, so this must just be an alternate title for it. But it is the first book in the Grail Quest series. And this one follows Thomas of Hookton, and he is an archer. It was the time when the English came across the Channel to take battle to the French. And it was the archers, or the common men, who were England's secret weapon. Thomas of Hookton is one of those archers, but he's also on a personal mission, one he frequently forgets in the joy of fighting, to avenge his father's killing by a French raider and retrieve his family's treasure. So that is a 4-book series, I believe, that looks really good and is set in that, time period that I enjoy so much with Brittany and Normandy and I'm not sure if he says, 1342 is when it starts. So in the 1300s, and I like that time period. Then my sister happened to have this one in her bunch of things. This is Redwall by Brian Jacques, and as you'll remember from my previous book haul, I had found 2 of the Redwall series of his in the books from our book sale. So this is actually the very first one, and this one has to do with a bumbling young apprentice monk named Matthias, Mousekind's most unlikely hero. So it has to do with a mouse, and it says, war erupts in summer of the late rose, shattering the peace that has reigned in Mossflower since the magnificent mouse Martin the Warrior laid down his mighty sword generations earlier. And Martin the Warrior is another one of the books that I have, so I'm looking forward to that. Now a dark cloud of doom and despair hangs over the ancient stone abbey of Redwall. Clooney the Scourge, the one-eyed embodiment of evil, the most savage bilge rat that ever jumped from ship to shore, has arrived with his rodent horde to conquer and to destroy. So I'm really looking forward to that. These ones are they're blurbed as being in the tradition of Watership Down, which everybody knows is my favorite book. So now I got the first book in that series, so I'm really looking forward to that. Then I found in my sister's stuff as well, she had 2 copies of this one here, To the Far Blue Mountains by Louis L'Amour. And this is the second book in the Sackett series. I'm doing a Louis L'Amour read through right now, and I have a feeling I'm going to want to collect all the Sackett ones. I have, between my mom and I, we have most of them, so I am reading them all as part of my read through. But I actually only own, I want to say maybe 3 of the 16 or 17 of them. So when I saw that she had a duplicate of this one, I grabbed it because the copy that I have that I'm putting in my Louis L'Amour read through is actually my mom's. So I got that. His Sackett series has to do with a family named the Sacketts, and it follows them from, the first one takes place in like the time of Shakespeare, and then it goes through, the Old West and everything. And the first one followed Barnabas Sackett as he left England to come to America. And then it looks like this one is also following Barnabas as well. So, and when he's in America. So looking forward to reading that. Then I actually have this trilogy. So my sister had the Frostheart trilogy. She actually had 2 copies of it due to a fluke with the shipping when she ordered it. And so she gave me this set. Now I haven't read much middle grade lately, but I've heard that this is really good. Gavin from Gavin Reads It All, this is one of his favorite middle grade series. So that's why she had bought it, and then why I'm kind of interested in reading it. So the first one here is Frostheart, and then is Escape from Aurora, and then Rise of the World Eater. So the very first one, it says, far out in the coldest parts of the monster-infested snow sea, Ash waits for his missing parents, with only his grumpy Yeti guardian for company. But when an accident reveals that Ash has amazing magical powers, he's whisked aboard the Frostheart, an explorer's sleigh with a daring crew who need his help. Can they help Ash master his new powers and find his family? So looks like it's a really good series, and I am looking forward to trying that out. Let's just find a spot to set that. Then I have, also from my sister, Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. So this is the first book in the Farseer trilogy, and I had found the second and third one and a couple from another one of her trilogies in the stuff from our book sale as well. And so then, but my sister happened to have 2 copies of this one as well, because one of them that she had purchased wasn't in the size that she wanted. So this one is the first one, and it says, the kingdom of the 6 duchies is on the brink of civil war when news breaks that the crown prince has fathered a bastard son and is shamed into abdication. The child's name is Fitz, and he's despised. Raised in the castle stables, only the company of the king's fool, the ragged children of the lower city, and his unusual affinity with animals provide Fitz with any comfort. To be useful to the crown, Fitz is trained as an assassin and to use the traditional magic of the Farseer family. But his tutor, allied to another political faction, is determined to discredit and even kill him. Fitz must survive, for he may be destined to save the kingdom. And I've heard that this is a very beloved series, and in particular, this first trilogy is very loved by people. So I am looking forward to trying that out. Then my sister had 2 copies of this as well. This is The Hollow Hills by Mary Stewart. This is one of the books in her Arthur Legend series. She was a writer who wrote a lot of romance/adventure sort of things back in, I want to say it was like the 50s and 60s maybe? 70s, back in the 70s. And then she also wrote a saga about Arthur. And this is the second book in the series. I have the first one somewhere. I think it's in the basement at my mom and dad's place, in the bins I have there. But I didn't have all of that series, so I grabbed this one. This is the second one. The Crystal Cave is the first one, and essentially it follows the Arthurian legend. And I've never read those ones. I've read pretty much everything else of hers. I just never read her Arthur books. And speaking of Mary Stewart, I also grabbed this copy of Madam Will You Talk from my sister. This is a hardcover version of it. I have a softcover version. However, my softcover version got somewhat severely damaged because I have my old lady cat. When she was younger, she used to love climbing up on my bookshelves behind the books, and then she would push them off. And she delightfully pushed my copy of Madam Will You Talk into the bunny's water bucket. So it got severely water damaged. I still have it sitting around here somewhere. Yeah, it's up there. I still have it sitting there because I wasn't willing to get rid of it, because it is one of my favorites of hers. But now I have this nice hardcover copy, so I will be able to get rid of the old copy that is wrecked. And the final one in that set is one that my sister also had. This is a Dick Francis omnibus. It has 5 novels in it. It has For Kicks, Odds Against, Flying Finish, Bone Kraken in the frame. And I took this one because I think I am missing in the frame. I need to go through and look again and just make sure, but when I looked up on my shelf, it's on the top shelf here, I didn't see in the frame there. I do have all the other ones, so when I do get an individual copy of In the Frame, then I will probably get rid of the omnibus, because I have each of the other ones as an individual copy. Dick Francis is one of my favorite authors. He wrote mysteries that involved horse racing. A lot of them were written back in the 60s and 70s. And then he wrote into, I believe he was still writing in the early 2000s. And then he started writing with his son, Felix Francis. And then Dick has passed away now, and Felix still writes. So, but I love his books. He's one of my favorite mystery authors. And so I've been collecting everything he has, and with that one that I thought I didn't have, I decided I would just take that omnibus. And then when I do, eventually I will get a copy of that book by itself, because I have them all, well, I have a few hardcovers, but the majority of them are in small paperbacks, and I just find the small paperbacks much easier to read than a 5-book omnibus. Next up was on our trip to the city, and we went to a used bookstore to Value Village, where they have a bunch of used books, and then also to Indigo. They don't have any independent new bookstores in the city anymore near us. So unfortunately, we weren't able to go to any indie bookstores, which would have been fun. But we did go to those places. So I ended up picking up quite a few at the used bookstore. So the used bookstore that we go to up there is called Centennial Books, and I just love this store. It is so jam-packed with books. It is like wall-to-wall fiction, and it's so fun going there because the lady who runs it, she knows where everything is. Like, all I have to do is go to her and ask her, like, say, do you have any Bernard Cornwell, or do you have any Stephen Lawhead, or whatever, and she'll direct me to, oh yeah, we have a few of those that come in. I keep these here, I keep those there. These ones come in and go out too fast, so I don't get to, so they aren't on the shelf anymore, or things like that. And she can point to you exactly where they are. So it's super fun going there, and I was able to get a few books. Now, some of these are also my sister's books that also go on our shelves, and I am planning on reading all of her books as well. So they all end up going into Snidely the Jar. So let's tell you about these ones. So I picked up another Bernard Cornwell, because like I said, I'm trying to collect all of his. This one is Excalibur, and Excalibur is the third book in his Warlord Chronicles. And the Warlord Chronicles are, they are his Arthurian Legend series. And I don't have the other ones yet. I just have, this is the only one in that series that I have. But it does follow Arthur in his quest to become king and all of that kind of thing. So I don't want to read too much about this one because it is the third book in the series. So that is one of them. Then I picked up, speaking of Dick Francis, I picked up this one, which is Twice Shy. This is one of the few that I don't have of his. I think there's only about 5 that I don't have, and Twice Shy was one of them. And it is, this one was written in 1981. It's another horse racing sort of thriller mystery. The only thing it says on the back is that Twice Shy hinges on a search for punter's gold. A lucrative betting system evolved by a professional gambler recently dead is put on computer tapes. When these vanish, the guns and the heavies come out. So it's another one of those racing mysteries. I haven't read this one. This is one of the few of his that I haven't actually read. So got that. Then I also found there Trojan Gold by Elizabeth Peters. I'm collecting everything that Elizabeth Peters has written too. I love her Amelia Peabody series, and she has one about a woman named Vicky Bliss, and one about a woman named Jacqueline Kirby. And my favorites are Amelia and Vicky. And this is actually the, let's see, I've got it written down here, 4th book. The 4th book in the Vicky Bliss series. And Vicky is an art historian, and she ends up going on all kinds of adventures and solving mysteries to do with art history. And I just know that there's also, it's been years since I read them, so I want to do a reread of them because they were some of my favorites when I was younger. And I just know that there's like an art thief, I believe, named John Smith, who she ends up ends up crossing paths with regularly, and it leads to things. And so this is actually the 4th book in that series. So that one looks good. Then I found this one. I've been really enjoying reading Japanese translated literature, and this one is called I Am Cat. It's by Soseki Natsumi, and it is translated by Eiko Ito and Graham Wilson. And this is actually 3 volumes in one, and it begins with I am a cat, as yet I have no name. So it begins one of the most original and unforgettable works in Japanese literature. So it is the chronicle of an unloved, unwanted, wandering kitten who spends all his time observing human nature, from the dramas of businessmen and school teachers to the foibles of priests and potentates. From this unique perspective, author Soseki Natsumi offers a biting commentary shaped by his training in Chinese philosophy on the social upheaval of the Meiji era. And so this one looks really good. It first appeared in 10 installments in the literary magazine Hoto Togisu, or Cuckoo, between 1905 and 1906. So I am really looking forward to reading that. Like I say, I've been really enjoying Japanese translated literature. I loved What You Were Looking For Is in the Library, and I enjoyed Sweet Bean Paste, and what else did I read? I read, I think, 3 Japanese translated ones and really enjoyed them this year. Can't remember what the other one was, but I'm really looking forward to reading that. Then I managed to find a very nice copy of The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. And I'm hoping to do a vlog at some point here where I read books that involve writing or authors or books in them. And so this is one that I picked up for that. It was one that had been on my list to take out from the library, but I happened to find it. And this one follows, there's a reclusive author, and she has written a collection of stories which are famous for the mystery of the missing 13th tale. And apparently she spent 6 decades creating various outlandish histories for herself. Now old and ailing, she at last wants to tell the truth about her extraordinary past. She summons biographer Margaret Lay, a young woman who is struck by a very curious parallel between Winter's life and her own. As Vida exposes the history she meant to bury for good, Margaret is mesmerized. It is a tale of gothic strangeness of a remote estate, feral children, a governess, a ghost, and a devastating fire. So it has real good gothic vibes to it, and I'm really looking forward to checking that one out when I do that vlog. And I think it would make a nice fall read since it has a lot of the gothic elements in it. So really looking forward to that one. And then I have these 4 here. These are ones that my sister picked up. She really, really loves books about haunted houses and hauntings and everything. And so she's gotten me kind of into that, and we listen to a lot of podcasts that involve that sort of thing. So she picked up these ones. This one's called Supernatural Vanishings, Otherworldly Disappearances by Rodney Davies. And this has to do with, it says, people come and go all the time. It's a matter of daily life. But what about when people vanish and appear seemingly out of thin air? For centuries, there have been instances of people disappearing in front of reliable witnesses and appearing in a completely different location in front of others. Some were thought to be witches. Others were suspected of being outcasts transported from a different time. And so he looks into classic disappearances and reappearances of people in supernatural vanishings. So that one looks quite interesting. Then there's this one, Anatomy of a Haunting by Lee Strong. And this one is a novel, it looks like. And it says that for John and Carly Summers, the nightmare begins when they move into an inherited home in rural Iowa. Leaving behind their busy lives in Chicago, John and Carly are dragged into a horrifying spiral of violent dreams, illnesses, and possessions. Uncovering a vast evil hidden for decades in crates of buried journals, John and Carly are forced to relive the sinister history of the house and its legacy of abuse, denial, and obsession. That sounds super interesting. I love books that have to do with old journals or manuscripts, and when it has to do with old journals, manuscripts, and a haunting, that's right up my alley. So looking forward to reading that one. And then she picked up this one here called Haunted Houses by Edric Fay. This is part of that series of haunted books that take place in all sorts of various locations. It's apparently number 24 in the series. And this one just talks about all kinds of haunted houses. There's a poet wandering his former home in Charleston, South Carolina. There's Amityville, New York. There's Abraham Lincoln haunting the White House. Spirits roaming San Diego's Whaley House. King Henry VIII and Herne the Hunter haunting Windsor Castle in England. And a few more like that. So this just has to do with various haunted houses. And the last one that she picked up is called Haunted Museums and Galleries of Canada. And this is by Andrew Hind. And this one looks at the restless spirits of former occupants that still reside in many of Canada's museums. And so some of the ones that he looks at are Le Musée de Saint-Boniface Museum in Winnipeg, spectral nuns walking the halls, mysterious spirits inhabiting the elegant brown house of the White Church Stouffville Museum, Halliburton House Museum in Windsor, Nova Scotia, the Art Gallery of Sudbury, Toronto's Black Creek Pioneer Village, and the ghost of the famed artist Emily Carr lingering at her former Victoria home. So that one looks really interesting as well. So haunted museums and galleries. So that covers all the books that we picked up at the used bookstore at Centennial Books. The next stack here that I have is some books that we picked up at Value Village in the city as well. And they had a sale on, they always have a sale on where it's, you buy 4 books, you get the 5th free. So I actually have 9 books here because one of them was one I bought for my mom. So I'll go through those. So this is a Ruth Ware, The Woman in Cabin 10. And I've been wanting to check out Ruth Ware stuff. We have one of her books here. We have, where is it? This one here, In a Dark, Dark Wood, that I haven't read yet, but we own. And so this is another one. This is The Woman in Cabin 10. I've heard lots of good things about her writing. So this one has to do with travel writer Lo Blacklock. Her latest assignment is tantalizing. Write a story about the maiden voyage of the luxury cruise ship Aurora. The promise of clear skies, calm waters, and a small list of well-heeled guests awaits. How could she say no? On board, Lo wakes up to something out of a nightmare, a sickening splash and a woman's body disappearing beneath the waves. But the passengers and crew remain accounted for, and nobody admits to having seen this woman on board. And so the ship sails as if nothing has happened. But who was the woman in cabin 10, and why will no one believe what Lo saw? So that sounds like a really good thriller. So I'm excited to check that out. And this is one of the ones that my sister picked out. This is Escape from the Asylum by Madeline Rue. And it looks like this is a series of books. This says it's an asylum prequel. So it says Ricky Desmond doesn't belong in the Brooklyn Asylum. His parents sent him here because they think he's a deviant and that he can be cured, but Ricky knows there's no cure for what he has. Soon after he arrives, Ricky learns that being locked up is only the beginning of his problems. Rumor has it that the Brooklyn warden authorizes treatments that aren't entirely humane, and if the screams Ricky hears coming from the basement are any indication, the rumors are an understatement. Now, with the help of a nurse, Ricky must escape before the asylum claims his sanity or his life. So that sounds really interesting. It sounds like a good spooky, scary story for the Halloween season. And then I picked up this one here. This is About a Boy by Nick Hornby. Nick Hornby, I've read a few of his books and really enjoyed them, so I kind of wanted to collect the rest of them. I haven't read this one, but I loved the movie. It's a movie with Hugh Grant. And so this is about Will Freeman, and it says, Will Freeman may have discovered the key to dating success. If the simple fact that they were single mothers meant that gorgeous women who would not ordinarily look twice at Will, might not only be willing but enthusiastic about dating him, then he was really onto something. Single mothers, bright, attractive, available women, thousands of them were all over London. He just had to find them. Spat, single parents alone together. It was a brilliant plan, and Will wasn't going to let the fact that he didn't have a child himself hold him back. A fictional 2-year-old named Ned wouldn't be the first thing he'd invented, and it seems to go quite well at first until he meets an actual 12-year-old named Marcus who has more than Will bargained for. And I just remember from the movie that this was a really, really heartwarming story, and kind of about somebody, finding his way and figuring out who he is, and a lot of character growth. So I'm looking forward to that one. This one was another one of my sister's ones that she picked up. This is The Doomsday Key by James Rollins. And this one takes place at Princeton University when a famed geneticist dies inside a biohazard lab. In Rome, a Vatican archaeologist is found dead in St. Peter's Basilica. In Africa, a U.S. senator's son is slain outside a Red Cross camp. The 3 murders on 3 continents bear a horrifying connection. All the victims are marked by a druidic pagan cross burned into their flesh. The bizarre murders thrust Commander Gray Pierce and Sigma Force into a race against time to solve a riddle going back centuries. Aided by 2 women from his past, one ex-lover and another his new partner, Gray must piece together the horrifying truth. So that looks pretty interesting. I'm not sure if that's part of a series. Wouldn't surprise me if it was part of a series, but that one looks interesting. Then she also picked out this one here, which is Vanished by Joseph Finder. And I know my other sister has read Joseph Finder and enjoyed his. I haven't read any of his yet, so this will be my first one. Lauren Heller and her husband Roger are out to dinner one night when they're brutally attacked. 24 hours later, Lauren awakes in the hospital to find that her husband has vanished without a trace. The only one who has any chance of finding him is his brother Nick, a high-powered investigator with a private intelligence firm. Nick Heller is tough, smart, and stubborn. Trained in the Special Forces, he specializes in digging up secrets that powerful people would rather keep hidden. He and his brother have been estranged ever since the imprisonment of their notorious billionaire father, but Nick will do anything to protect Lauren and her son. He never backs down, even if it means taking on the most lethal enemies he's ever had to face. So that sounds like another good thriller. Then I found another Dick Francis one that I didn't have. This is Crossfire. This is by Dick Francis and his son Felix. And these ones were written, the ones that were written with Felix were in Dick Francis's old age. And so Felix helped him write them and then kind of took over after that. This was 2010. And this one, Crossfire. Yeah, so this one is Captain Thomas Forsyth's tour of duty in Afghanistan is cut brutally short when he's badly wounded by a roadside bomb. 6 months of leave to recuperate is a daunting prospect, so he returns to his childhood home in Lambourne, where his mother is a racehorse trainer and the first lady of racing. Never having seen eye to eye with her, Tom doesn't expect a hero's welcome, but even he's not prepared for the reception that awaits him. When his mother's prize horse finishes a vastly disappointing last in a race he should have won, Tom discovers that the training business is on the edge and facing a threat far more dangerous than a run of bad form. Tom finds himself on a very different but just as deadly battlefield, where again his military skills are tested, kill or be killed. So that sounds like a classic Dick Francis. They always have something along those lines of, thriller set in a racing scene. So that one. Then I managed to find another Bernard Cornwell. This is Death of Kings, and this one is number 6 in his Uhtred of Bebbanburg saga. In the first book, Uhtred is a young boy from Northumbria, and his father gets killed and he gets captured by the Danes. It's when the Danes were invading England, and he ends up being raised by a Danish warrior and becoming a fighter, and then through the variety of events and everything, he ends up fighting for Alfred of Wessex, who is holding up the last kingdom against the Danes. And so this one here begins, it takes place as the 9th century wanes, and Alfred the Great lies dying, his dream of a unified England in danger, and his kingdom on the brink of chaos. And it again is about Uhtred, who is fighting for Alfred, and also involved in all kinds of other things, because again he's still friends with some of the Danes, and he has things going on there. But this is like the 6th one in the series, so I'm not sure where the rest of the series goes. I think I have 1, 2, 4, and 6 now, so I'm collecting all of those. And then I picked up these ones. This is Depth of Winter and Land of Wolves. This is numbers 14 and 15 in the Longmire series by Craig Johnson. And I've really enjoyed the Longmire series. I've read, I think, about the first 8 or 9 in the series, plus a couple of the novellas that go along with them. And so these ones are about Sheriff Walt Longmire, and he is a sheriff in a small community in Wyoming near the mountains. So he ends up solving a mystery in each of these ones, or a crime, with the help of his small staff at the sheriff's department and his friend Henry Standing Bear, who's a Cheyenne man, who is just, Henry is my favorite character. He is just such a cool character. I largely read the books for Henry because he's my favorite character. I like Walt too, but I really love the character of Henry. So I enjoy those ones. So that is the stack of books that we got at the Value Village. So next we went over to the big Chapters Indigo store in the city, and it is the largest bookstore in the city, and there are a couple of Kohl's bookstores as well, but they're also related to Chapters Indigo, so they're all kind of together, and that's kind of the main bookstore in the small city that we live near. So we went shopping there and looking for some new books that I had on my list. There were a few that I wasn't able to find, but there were some authors that I was really looking for, so I will show you what I got there. So the first one I picked up is another Japanese translation, which this one is called We'll Prescribe You a Cat by Seo Ishida. And I had seen this one. Somebody else had picked it up on BookTube. I don't believe they'd read it yet, but they had picked it up in a book haul. And as soon as I saw that one, I was like, I have to read this book. So this one, it is tucked away on the 5th floor of an old building at the end of a narrow alley in Kyoto, the Nakagayo Kokoro Clinic for the Soul. Can be found only by people who are struggling in their lives and who genuinely need help. The mysterious clinic offers a unique treatment to those who find their way there. It prescribes cats as medication. Patients are often puzzled by this unconventional prescription, but when they take their cat for the recommended duration, they witness profound transformations in their lives, guided by the playful, empathetic, and occasionally challenging yet endearing cats. So this obviously is right up my alley, and I'm excited to read that one. I've noticed that a lot of Japanese, there's a lot of Japanese literature that involves cats, and so I think that might be part of why I like it so much. This one was translated from the Japanese by E. Madison Shimoda, so looking forward to reading that. Right now I have read, I believe, I'm at 5 or 6 now. I think I might be at 6 translated books for the year, and so I need to pick up the pace because I was hoping to do 12. So, but I do have 2 more here now. Then I picked up this one. This is The Forest of Stolen Girls by June Her. This is a young adult novel, and I don't normally read a lot of young adult, although I am finding now that I quite enjoy young adult when it's a historical setting, because I find that the characters, it doesn't seem quite as unbelievable that they would find themselves in some of the situations that they find themselves in. Whereas in more contemporary young adult, especially like mystery thriller type things, I find that it's kind of, I have to suspend my disbelief quite a bit to think that they would get into those situations and get out of them again. And then also I find with the more contemporary stuff, I struggle a little bit with the whole how emotional teenagers are. Largely because I know it's true and I have a teenager, and so I don't care to read that much about the emotional ups and downs of contemporary teenagers. But I do like historical, and I've been discovering that I don't mind fantasy as well, as long as it's not romantasy, because I can't deal with teenage hormones. Anyway, so this one is called The Forest of Stolen Girls. This one is set in 1426 in Joseon in Korea, and it's about a girl named Hwani, and it says her family has never been the same since she and her younger sister went missing and were later found unconscious in the forest near a gruesome crime scene. Years later, Detective Min, Hwani's father, learns that 13 girls have recently disappeared from the same forest that nearly stole his daughters. He travels to their hometown on the island of Jeju to investigate, only to vanish as well. Determined to find her father and solve the case that tore their family apart, Hwani returns home to pick up the trail. As she digs into the secrets of the small village and collides with her now estranged sister Maywal, Hwani comes to realize that the answer could lie within her own buried memories of what happened in the forest all those years ago. So this sounds really, really interesting. I loved her book, The Red Palace, that I just finished reading like a week ago. That was also set in the Joseon Dynasty, although in the 1700s. So this one is set in the 1400s. So I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I'm also curious about this one because this was on the list of books that Florida was banning from schools for whatever weird reason the educators came up with, on that list of like 1,000 books that they're banning that includes some dictionaries and encyclopedias. So I'm really curious as to why they decided that this one needed to be banned, because I loved her other book, and I have a feeling that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this book. That's a 100% no. Anyway, and then my older sister, she ended up picking up for me a book as a gift because I helped her move her 7-foot tall bookshelf up 2 flights of stairs to her condo, and it was exhausting. So I told her she had to buy me a book. So she picked up for me The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, which if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know is one of my top books of the year so far this year. I love this book. I'm so looking forward to the second one coming out in September here. And this book is about Linus Baker. He's a caseworker at the department in charge of magical youth. He's 40 years old, lives in a house with his cat and his old records for company. He ends up getting sent off on a trip by extremely upper management to go and investigate this house on an island. And it is a house that has 6 dangerous magical children, and they're trying to figure out if they are so dangerous that the house needs to be shut down. When he arrives, he meets Arthur Parnassus, who's the master of the orphanage, and Linus and Arthur start to grow close, and they both decide that they need to do something to keep the children safe. And it is such a heartwarming story. It's a love story. I was squeeing while I read this story. I was laughing at parts of it, and I love the kids, and I love Arthur, and I love Linus, and it was just one of my favorite books of the year. So I'm really looking forward to reading the second one in the series that's coming out this fall, and I'm excited to have my own copy of that, because that is going to be one that I will reread multiple times. Then I picked up The Lost Man by Jane Harper. Now, again, if you followed my channel for any length of time, you know that another one of my favorite books of the year so far has been The Dry by Jane Harper, which is the first in her Aaron Falk trilogy. And then I also read Forces of Nature during Summerween, which is the second one. And I have the third one, Exiles, which I'm going to read hopefully in October. So, but this one here is called The Lost Man. This is a standalone, and I've heard from reading reviews and things that this is actually the one that people say is often their favorite. And since I absolutely loved the Aaron Falk ones so far, I'm excited to try this one that people say is actually her best one. So this one is about brothers Nathan and Bub Bright, and it says they meet for the first time in months at the remote fence line separating their cattle ranches. Their third brother Cameron lies dead at their feet. In the lonely Australian outback, their homes a 3-hour drive apart, the brothers were one another's nearest neighbors. Nathan and Bub return to Cameron's ranch and to those left behind by his passing. While the family grieves Cameron's loss, suspicion starts to take hold, because if someone forced Cameron to his death, the isolation of the outback leaves few suspects. So this one sounds so good, and I just honestly, I love her writing. She is probably my new favorite author in a long time. I think I'm going to collect and read everything she's ever written, because I just love her writing. And I don't know if this one will be the same as the other ones, in that I know her Aaron Falk ones always have a dual timeline where you're following the main character as he's in present day, and then you're also following what happened when the crime happened as in its own scenes, and that sort of thing. So I imagine this one probably is written similarly, but whether it is or not, I am looking forward to it because I love her writing so much. Then the last two that we picked up were two that my sister picked up. They were on a buy one get one half off for ones that had been from Reese's Book Club. And they're both ones that I wanted to read as well. So the first one is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. And I've seen this one around and thought it looked super intriguing. It's late October after midnight. You're waiting up for your 18-year-old son. He's past curfew. As you watch from the window, he emerges and you realize he isn't alone. He's walking toward a man and he's armed. You can't believe it when you see him do it. Your funny, happy teenage son kills a stranger right there on the street outside your house. You don't know who, you don't know why. You only know that your son is now in custody, his future shattered. That night you fall asleep in despair. All is lost until you awake and it's yesterday. And then you wake again and it's the day before yesterday. Every morning you wake up a day earlier, another day before the murder, with another chance to stop it. Somewhere in the past lies an answer, the trigger for this crime, and you don't have a choice but to find it. So this one sounds so intriguing. I'm actually hoping to maybe read this one in October because I want to read some thrillers in October. So I've heard good things about it, and I am excited to try it. I've never read anything by Gillian McAllister before, so looking forward to that. And then the last one is this one here. It's called The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. And this one is another thriller that I'm looking forward to checking out. It says, the newly renovated Hotel Le Sommet, a former sanatorium high in the Swiss Alps, has long been plagued by dark rumors. When Detective Ellen Warner's estranged brother Isaac and his fiancée Laurie invite her to celebrate their engagement at the hotel, Ellen reluctantly accepts. Arriving in the midst of a threatening storm, Ellen immediately feels on edge, and when Lori suddenly vanishes, Ellen must trust her instincts if they hope to find her. When the snow cuts off all access to Le Summit, the remaining guests start to panic. Then another woman disappears, and she's the only person who could have warned them of just how much danger they're all in. So this one again sounds super intriguing. I love those stories where it's you know, a group of people and they get trapped somewhere, and then, you know, murders happen. That reminded me of in Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson was like that, where they were trapped in this chalet, and it was you know, they were snowed in, and somebody there was a murderer. And I love those kind of stories. They're so intriguing and so exciting to read. So really looking forward to checking that one out as well. So there you have it. That is my, let's count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 books. 40 book haul. So that's pretty exciting for somebody who hasn't been able to buy books in ages. And, you know, we finally had a little bit of money saved up and we're able to get some of those. And then, of course, the ones that were given to me as well. So now I need to shelve all of these and add them into Snidely the Jar so that I can have a chance of picking them when I pick my books to read. And yeah, you'll hopefully hear about some of these books from me in the not too distant future and see what I think of them. So if you've read any of the books that I hauled here, let me know. Let me know what you liked and what you didn't like, and which ones I should try first. And I will do that. So yeah, let me know down in the comments, and give me a like and a subscribe as well if you don't mind, because that helps my channel. And I will see you guys on another video soon. Bye.